you have officially been elevated to the Superintendent of Prisons, that given the official title. Just walk us through, one, I mean, how are you feeling with regards to now holding that position, and also the journey that it took to get to this point?
Okay, thanks. Welcome, Mr. Mumsy. How I'm feeling, basically, I believe it's the will of the master who, you know, when he puts things in train, you just have to follow his have faith and follow his lead. And I believe that all things are possible with him. All right. Mm-hmm. My journey, I would have joined the Barbados Prison Service at the time it was HMP Glenderry at Station Hill in 1982, May the 3rd, 1982, as a basic grade prison officer. So basically, when you look at it, I'm into like 42 and a half years. For me, the journey is one that if I had to do it all over again, I would readily embrace being a prison officer. All right. When I joined the service in 1982, you know, prison was going through its evolution basically, because Station Hill was we were considered a Victorian style institution. There was slop buckets and the whole nine yards, smoking and all these different things were going on, like as part of the normal custom. The place was overcrowded because it was built to accommodate, I think, about 300 people, and it was over that, so it was basically overcrowded. The lighting situation wasn't good as well. And one of the most significant parts of it is that the very first day I started to work in the prison, it was the day after they had held officers hostage. The inmates had held officers hostage there on I think the 2nd of May. It was a Sunday. I started work on the Monday, which was the 3rd of May. So, you know, that in itself would remain etched in my mind throughout my career, because that was a very tense situation I was walking into in terms of uncertainty and such like it. I was even told by one of the senior members of staff at that time is that the staff who started to work around that time, especially on the night duty, turned out to be very strong staff members in terms of how they operated in the prison system. So, and then the guidance and so on from those older folks would also help to, you know, strengthen my resolve in terms of getting through to the point where I'm now. I would work under about 7 or 8 superintendents. And there would have been a point where superintendents were coming through the ranks, and then somewhere around 2001, that had stopped. This is the first event that would have occurred since then in terms of someone coming straight through the ranks and becoming the superintendent of prison and being appointed. So I'm happy. I would want to thank, as I said, I would want to thank the Ministry of Home Affairs, the Permanent Secretary, the Minister, and all those responsible for assisting in making sure that this journey that I would have been on, or I'm still on, is one that was rewarding, is one that is one that, you know, with the assistance and the guidance and so on from those individuals, it would have helped me along the way as well. So,
now that you hold the reins of command, what are your plans for, I mean, obviously in terms of maybe the policies and so on, that you might be involved in some of those aspects, but your plans for the development for the next stage of evolution for the prison system?
Okay, so thanks for the question. What I can say is that I had taken over the prison on May the 9th, 2022. So basically, I don't necessarily have to go back to the drawing board here with the promotion. The promotion basically is just a confirmation of an appointment, but the plans were already put in train from since 2022, and they're constantly evolving in terms of what we're doing. But at this juncture, I would want to say that the emphasis for me will be on staff development, training, expanding the rehabilitative programs, all right, ensuring that the prison is, we will say, human rights compliant, in terms of what we do in terms of delivering the service and treatment of inmates and such like it, as well as making sure that there's a reduction in recidivism and the whole issues surrounding security of the institution. All those things become paramount in relation to what is my vision. And my vision is captured within, I think there are 4 parameters. All right, is one that speaks to safety of the inmates, staff, and also contributing to national security safety at the national level. The rehabilitative programs, expanding them and creating more opportunities for inmates when they are here, and preparing them for reintegration into society. The whole emphasis on placing emphasis on training and development for staff, as I said before, making sure that issues surrounding discipline and so on, they are addressed and basically minimized in terms of the whole issues related to discipline, as well as to make sure that the whole issues related to staff welfare and conditions of service are improved, as well as making sure that wherever possible the staff here are appointed and you know, to the post. So we will have we will call tenure. This whole issue related to tenure. There's a name for it, but security tenure, basically, to ensure that all the staff basically have the opportunities presented to them that they can develop and thrive, basically.
You mentioned recidivism. I don't know if you have the stats to hand, but what's the rate of recidivism now, and where do you hope to take it under your tenure?
Okay, so the whole issue surrounding recidivism at the national level, the rate is about 53%. It came down from about 68% when we last did the research with the National Task Force on Crime. All right. In terms of the reincarceration rate, this is reoffending rate as it relates to prison, because the whole issue within this recidivism is at the national level. They don't reflect only prison. But if you look at reoffending rates as it relates to prison, it's something in the 30s and 30-something%. So it's not as high as the national recidivism rate, because the recidivism rate takes into consideration stats from police, the courts, which is government, industrial schools, probation, and all the national agencies. Reoffending rates will only speak to those coming through our gates and so on. So that's the reason why you'll see it is about 30-something%. But at the national level, where we actually feed into that, is around 53%. So I believe that we're on the right track in terms of its reduction. But in terms of prison now and focusing on the programs to help to contribute further to the reduction in recidivism, we are looking to expand the rehabilitative programs to focus on things that will help to contribute to sustainable development goals for the country. So things like the expansion in the farm, that's one of the areas that we're looking at in terms of expanding rehabilitation. We're looking also at the whole expansion of the aquaponics and fish farm. All right, we're looking to expand in relation to animal husbandry, because we've actually refurbished the chicken pens on this, so we have another one to build, as well as we're going to be looking at the refurbishing the pig pens and such like it, and expanding everything. We're also looking to see if we can expand in relation to the beef production that we have here. We have about 40-something cows now, so we're looking to expand on that as well. And then we're also going to be focusing on skills related and entrepreneurship type rehabilitative programs, like entrepreneurship, which will speak to principles of business. We also have the hospitality training going on that is addressing things like food production and cooking and bartending. All right. We also have academic side of the house as well. So we're looking at there are about 5 or 6 major subjects that we do here. Recently, we have had entrances for CXC. There were about 46 entrances, and we would have had a return of about 24 passes. So that's more than half, basically. And those passes were centered around grade 3s, 2s, and 1s. So there were about 11 3s, 6 or 7 grade 2s, I think there was a few Galesburg ones as well. So they were spread across there. It's just now to expand that program, and we're trying to get additional teacher instructors on board. I think there are 4 that we have earmarked. So those will help to expand the rehabilitation program. And then we also have programs that speaks to the psychological side of the house, like anger management training, counseling, all those things. So we're expanding. I believe that the one of the things that urgently needed at this point in terms of policy is relating to the whole reforms of the legislation in relation to the management of the prison, bringing it into more modern and compliant legislation as it relates to corrections and not just focusing on prisons. Remember, we are operating with a Prisons Act, that is a 1974 Prisons Act. A lot has happened since then in terms of the country, so we believe that's one of the key pieces of policy that has to be addressed in terms of the whole issue of if you're going to introduce ankle monitoring and parole and those things. That piece of legislation has to reflect modern day practices and such like it. So that is urgent as far as I'm concerned, because when we treat inmates here and they go through the gate as being released, we're not supposed to interact with them based on the law. So all those are the things that has to be looked at in terms of, or it has to be done in such a way that there's an agency that can take up the mantle when they're released and continue the process, so that we are continuing an ongoing process of rehabilitation. Because when they go out there and there's nothing, or there's no one to continue the process, then they'll slip back, right?
Okay. Final question from me, and then obviously I'll let you add anything else you want to add.
That's not a problem.
There are a lot of myths about the prison culture and life in prison. I'm sure you're aware of most of them. Can you demystify the whole idea of what happens from the intake point to life behind bars?
I have seen the prison evolve over the last 42.5 years. Alright, so when we were at Station Hill, the process was a more simplified process in terms of it was manual, so you would have people coming into the institution on the bus, they disembark the bus, they're checked, and then they're sent to the reception, admission and discharge area, where they go through the process as well. Alright, as we evolve, you will find that more persons are coming to prison than back then. So the process, you have to streamline the process even more. So right now, there's a process that addresses from the time you come through the gate there, right until you go into a cell in terms of being housed. So the process is basically, the first thing that happens there is that they do COVID-19 tests. As you come in there, that's one of the first things that I've done to make sure that you basically are not carrying any contagious or communicable diseases. Then from there, the warrants and so on are checked to make sure that we have the correct persons here, and that there is 100% accuracy in relation to the paperwork, right? Because you know that in itself can have implications if someone is brought into the prison but the paperwork doesn't support them being here. That can have implications for litigation and such like it. So that's one of the areas that if there's something to make sure that the paperwork is accurate and correct and so on. Then there's this whole issue related to processing on induction, making sure that you get the toiletries, the necessary basic toiletries and so on, that you have to get change of clothing and those sort of things. So all that's all part of it. A bath, same thing that we would have been doing back then, but they're doing it on a more simplified scale now. Because the prison was purpose built here, a lot of what would have been seen as being, mundane there is not really such low now, because a lot of the services are in one place. Like for argument's sake, the admission and discharge department, all those things happen in there in one place, like a process line.
Right.
Alright, and the bath and everything is in there. So then from there you're escorted to the cell, and it's based on a security classification as well. So a person might come in as an admission, but based on the security classification they'll be housed. Alright, so if you came in as a high-risk individual, based on the security classification, then we can't hold you in a minimum area. You have to be housed as it relates to your security classification. So So the tally this morning would have been around 670, somewhere over there.
Right.
690, sorry. And of that, you will get 300 or something, remand and 300 or something.
Right.
It's convicted. So it's basically the numbers are balanced right now. There's not one number in the next. Basically, the last time I did research for it, there was have been around 352 and 348. But since then, you will see that the tally would have gone down because 352 and 340 was put us into 700 and something, and there's no 600 and something. So the numbers aren't really. They're not much variation in terms of the numbers. They're almost even right now.
Right. Now, the prison is I think originally set to house over 1,000. 1,200 inmates. You have less than half capacity at this point.
Yes.
As government pushes to push the trials much faster, and maybe the conviction rate, maybe higher. Depends. I don't know how cases are going to fall. But if cases obviously push through much quicker, and let's say incarceration numbers go up, is the prison in a position to handle those potential increase?
I would say yes, because when we came here in 2007, we came here with a tally of 1,184. And as you can see, we're down to 690 anywhere in that region now. So we'll still have about almost 500 and some spaces here. But if it starts to become, we would say, up in numbers in terms of full, then we have a duty of care to inform the authorities that we are reaching that point. All right? But at the end of the day, it comes down to sentencing guidelines and sentencing policy as well. Because everyone who goes through the court system don't necessarily get sentenced to prison. Sometimes they do community work, sometimes they do time serve, and a lot of different things. So it depends on the policy guidelines, and then they have fines. So it depends. I think one of my fondest memories of Glendale is that you join the service and you learn the work on the job. It was not a situation where you were going to recruit training for a certain amount of period of time and then you're, ushered on to the job. From the time you joined the service at Glendale, you were actually working and learning on the job. So that was a whole complete different thing. So it's like you're looking at mentors, you're looking at people who set standards and such like it, and you're trying to work with that as your guiding principles and such like it. One of the persons who would have stood out, or a few of the people who would have stood out to me in terms of influencing me in Glendale would have been Mr. Louis Hayward, who's passed, and Mr. Carlo Payne, who was the superintendent when I joined his service there. He was actually in charge of the prison. But I believe that all of them who would have interacted at that station would have had some positive impact on my development in terms of career and such like it. For me, I believe that station has potential to be a tourism product, part of a tourism product here, museum type thing where people can do tours. It can also be used as an entrepreneurship hub for some of the individuals living here who has those skills that can develop, small businesses and such like it. The only thing about it is that we have to do a lot of refurbishment, because it should not be an enclosed space, right? It should be a space that is accessible. But because it was constructed as a prison, then that's the reason why it has remained an enclosed space. But I believe if they do things that can make it a space that is more inviting, right? Then I believe it will serve the public as well as the country well in terms of bringing in revenue and such like it. Apart from that, another thing that would have been intriguing to me when I joined the service was this whole issue related to hanging, because that was still on the statutes at the time and it was actually happening, because during my time there, I believe I would have experienced about 2 of those hangings there, at least 2, and then around 1985 it stopped. So between 1982 and 1985 they had about 4 or so, I think about 4 people that I know of for sure that got hung. Right, so those are the things that would have been intriguing to me at the time. And then too, you know, you would have had notorious prisoners at that point in time, like Buddy Bradford and Mark Young and Alfred Hardin and Theophilus Puz and a guy named Skinny that he carried Hunt. Those were the persons who were the known or notorious prisoners at that point in time, you know. But this era is a whole completely different thing. So when you're able to compare what was then to what is happening now, then you'll be able to understand exactly how the system would have evolved. And many people won't be able to do that because the majority of persons who came and found that the prisoners are gone. Right now, me and one guy here, the two most experienced in terms of years, is me and the guy that joined the service the same day as me, who are still here.